Letter to the NBA players, you sent Tyrese Halliburton into John Wick mode. Now he's going around destroying every team he goes against. He went against an MVP contender. He beat him by hitting a game-winning layup over him. And now he's going against possibly the best team in the NBA, and he's dismantling them and ripping them to shreds. And it's crazy because this all started because he got voted Overrated Player of the Year. And it hit different because it was by his peers. It wasn't by some random critic like Stephen A. It was by his peers, the guys who know and play the game. That would hit hard. And it is the best thing I think that could have happened for him. Because now he's going full on John Wick mode and shredding up teams. He went against Giannis and hit a game winning layup over him. He went against the Cavaliers in game 2 in Cleveland and hit a game winner over them. That's insane. And kudos to him and the Pacers organization. They took a chance in going out and get this young kid who was barely showing on the Kings of being an all-star. And now he's developed into arguably top 3-point guard in the NBA right now. And he's led the Pacers to their first 2 playoff berths since, I believe, 2014. And it's been insane to watch. They've improved every year. Last year, they were 47-35 in the regular season. This year, they're 50-32. And this year, they beat the Pacers, who had Giannis. Well, they beat the Bucks, who had Giannis, by the way. And Giannis was in the MVP conversation. Tyrese hit a game-winning layup over him. And he is leading a team that is so efficient on offense. The Pacers are by far the most efficient offense right now in the playoffs, with a 50.4% field goal percentage overall and a 40.4% three-point percentage. That's enough to maybe get them to the finals. Although let's see how they handle Cleveland, because I don't know. We've seen in the great city of Cleveland a 3-1 comeback before. Let's see if they have it in them again. This team's definitely more stacked than it was with LeBron. No shade toward LeBron and Kyrie, but this one's on an all-around better defensive team. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this matchup. Now, the fascinating thing is, this playoff leap also started when Pascal Siakam came into Indianapolis. And that says a lot, because look at the Pacers. Look at a few of their starting 5. You got Tyrese Halliburton, a 6'5" point guard who has an insane passing vision, passing IQ. You got Miles Turner, a big man who can block shots defensively, and he can also shoot threes. He hit some clutch 3-pointers against Milwaukee, and he's been hitting plenty this series against Cleveland. And then you've got Pascal Siakam. Now, if you remember that one year he started to show up as an all-star in Toronto, he won Most Improved Player of the Year. He's still got it in him. And he's one of the most athletic bigs out there. He's fast, he's shifty, and he can do whatever you need him to do defensively. Good at perimeter defense and good on defense. So this type of combination is something I think could make the finals. Let's see what happens between these two teams and the Celtics and the Knicks. Speaking of that, the Celtics are still easily the second best team in the NBA. And I say that with no hesitation. Now, who knows what will happen? Maybe they'll go down 3-1, maybe they won't. But when they play historically bad, i.e. shoot 53 pointers and only make 15 of them, or shoot 40 and only make like 12, they lose by 1 point, or they lose in overtime by 3. And when they play okay, they beat the team by 15 plus. Celtics are still the same. Now, for those Celtics critics out there, Charles Campbell, they are still very much capable of taking this championship by storm. And if they get back-to-back, that might be a dynasty. You never know. This is a young core of players. Jason Tatum's about, I believe, turned 27, Jaylen Brown 28. They've still got about a good 5-7 years of peak physical abilities, and it'll be interesting to see what they can do. But as far as I'm concerned, they can easily blow this Knicks team out of the water. Real quick, I want to talk about Giannis and the Bucks, because this seems to be a widely talked about issue. And I personally think Giannis needs to leave the Bucks. He is a Lamborghini outside of a degraded, destroyed house right now, and he's getting expensive. And they're wasting all of his talent. This series, he's the NBA's, for the playoffs, he has been the leading scorer with 33.3 points per game and rebounder with 15.4. In that last game, he scored 30 points, 20 rebounds, and 13 assists. He's playing the best basketball of his life so far, and it's all being wasted on the Bucks, who can't even make it past the first round. He hasn't had a playoff victory with the Bucks since he was with that team when they went against the Celtics in the semifinals of 2022. That's how long. It's been 3 years since he's had a playoff victory with the Bucks. He needs to get it together, and go to another team. Now, a lot of people say he should go to Houston. I could see that trade Jalen Green and maybe not Amen Thompson, but a few first-round picks to the Bucks, and that's a good, solid start because I'm pretty sure Giannis idolizes Hakeem, so that would be kind of a great story if he went down to Houston. Another thing I'm hearing is why not go to the Warriors? That would be one of the smartest decisions he could make because add a versatile big to the Warriors with Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry. The amount of pick and rolls you could do with Steph Curry, that could get that team a championship, and that could be Steph Curry's last hurrah if they don't make it this year, which again would be a great story. But the team I really think he should chance it on is the San Antonio Spurs. They have 2 lottery picks, and if the Bucks immediately decide they want to get rid of Giannis and rebuild, that's the team they want. Now, depending on where San Antonio lands, I think if San Antonio gets the number 1 overall pick, I think they wouldn't go for Giannis and they'd get Cooper Flag. But either way, partner Giannis with Victor Wembanyama or Cooper Flag, that team's immediately a title contender. And they would have made the play-in this year if it weren't for the blood clot that happened to Victor Wembanyama. And they've had back-to-back Rookies of the Year. They wouldn't have to trade Stephon Castle, I believe. I think that would be a stupid decision. Keep Stephon Castle, De'Aaron Fox, Victor Wembanyama. You can maybe get Giannis, title contender right there. Versatile players on defense. Stephon Castle and Victor Wembanyama are already a great duo on defense. And combine Giannis, a former defensive player of the year and 2-time MVP, championship contender. That's where I think he should go, unless the Spurs get the number 1 overall pick. All right, let's take a second to talk about the Thunder and the Nuggets. Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the best playoff matchups you're going to see. This will decide who's the best player in the world because we got more than half of the NBA fans argue it's Jokic based on his triple-double average this year, but a lot of them advocate for SGA. And I could make an argument for both being the best player in the league. Last year, I personally thought Luka was, but this year, Nikola Jokic by far and away. But SGA's also risen up. He's still young. He's 26, I believe. He's a 6'7" point guard, and he's one of the most versatile defenders in the NBA, something that Luka isn't, and he still led the NBA in scoring. I think that's an argument for the best player in the world, and he led a team to 68 wins for the first time in the league since the Warriors did in 2017. There's an argument to be held. But this series, they're trading blows. The Thunder have shown they easily have the ability to blow out the Nuggets when they're at home. And the Nuggets, the only wins the Nuggets have right now are in overtime. I want the Nuggets to win this series, even though I pick the Thunder. But the fact that they can only win in overtime is a bad sign to me. In Game 3, they played horribly in the regulation. They couldn't even put the game away. They barely had time. Once they got a lead, they blew it each time, and they struggled to keep up with the Thunder. And in overtime, I don't know where they got that energy. I think it's just because, and no shade toward the Thunder, I don't think the Thunder are used to so many close games. I think they're so used to having to blow out other teams, which is understandable because they had the best defense in the league. But we saw last year against the Mavericks, they lost 116. It's hard for them in late game situations. That's the only knock I have on this team. They're like the Celtics. They're so used to blowing other teams out. And if this series comes down to a Game 7 and it's an overtime game, I'm taking the Nuggets. But if the Thunder can go ahead and punch the Nuggets in the face tomorrow and then maybe come in and do what they did in Denver the other day, they're obviously going to win. But it all comes down to, can they win close games so now that we've talked about that, let's take a little bit of a tactical timeout. So everybody's seeing the Thunder. Listen, both the MVPs are getting contained by both teams, and it's pretty fun to watch. I mean, the first 2 games, SGA averaged 33.5, but he's not been able to score over 30 since Game 2. And that's mostly because Denver's just trying to wear him out. They're beating him up, and they're making sure all his number 2s, they're not really looking after his number 2s, actually. I want to get that straight. Jalen Williams is performing pretty well right now because they're not focused too much on guarding him. They want to guard SGA. And I think this is an effort by the Nuggets to make it look like Nikola Jokic is the real MVP. But OKC's clearly shutting him down too. If you recall, I did a tactical timeout where I talked about the Thunder's defense and how it's the best in the NBA. Well, they're using what I talked about, the micro ball lineup. They're swarming over Jokic and speeding up the time he needs to process plays. But in doing so, it's making him make a little bit of mistakes. Like those behind the back passes you see, those are becoming riskier and riskier each time they go further along in the game. And because of that, the Thunder have been able to take advantage and get out and get some fast break points. Because obviously, I think they're the faster team. I mean, sure, you have Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray is one of the most talented guards I've seen in a while with his acrobatic layups. Reminds me a lot of Ginobili and the speed and shooting of Tony Parker. But another thing they're doing to slow him down on offense is to wear him out on defense. They're having Chet go inside and acting as a lob threat, and that's sucking because Jokic is often the biggest player on the court. That's forcing Jokic inside the paint and having to guard Chet. But in doing so, because of Chet's length and speed, it's hard for him to keep up. And I don't know if you noticed, and I said this last year, the top two players in the league, which were, in my opinion, last year, Jokic and Luka, they weren't the most physically in shape. They were actually rather out of shape. They just did really good skill wise. And that's kind of what we're seeing. We're seeing that limited athleticism from Jokic get taken advantage of by the Thunder. By making him wear himself out on defense, performing on offense is becoming a bit of an issue for him. And Jamal Murray is trying to play a lot of iso ball, and he keeps getting quickly swarmed. So does Jokic. They get quickly swarmed by the guards like Alex Caruso, who's doing phenomenal this series, by the way, Jalen Williams, and Cason Wallace. SGA is really busy taking care of the ball offensively, that he does get worn out on defense too. But again, this is one thing where I look at these athletes in the NBA, I can definitively say they're better than the NFL. Like, sure, the NFL, you have like a lot of explosive strength and you have to have the endurance to sprint back and forth for about an hour. But the NBA, I don't think you really get a chance to stop running. And you have to be able to continue to do that, jump, focus, and keep your form. That's pretty impressive stuff to me. So kudo to these athletes. And this micro ball lineup would not really work if they didn't have SGA playing as center sometimes. Because if you recall, the Warriors would sometimes have Draymond play as center, and he was 6'5", 6'6". SGA 6'6", and he's big enough to play center for the Thunder, and he averages 1 block a game. So it wouldn't really work without him or Isaiah Hartenstein, who's a great addition to this Thunder team. So that's that for the NBA. So let's get on to some topics besides the NBA playoffs. First order of business, I filmed an episode where I discussed the drafts for each team, so I'm going to go over that real quick. But the one thing that people want to know the most about is, Charlie, what do you think about Shedeur Sanders being taken where he was? I said this: Andrew Barry is an idiot GM. I know he said he didn't intend to take another quarterback in that draft besides Dylan Gabriel, but that was not good. And all the other teams that passed up on him, when I initially saw other teams pass up on him, and I looked at the players drafted over him, I said, they're in you could make an argument that they're better players than Shedeur Sanders. But then when I saw players like Jalen Miller and Dylan Gabriel get drafted over him, I knew it was the red flag of how egotistical he was and how his father would often interfere with his football life, which is understandable. I'd get why teams want to avoid that. But at the same time, this kid's talent is insane. On offense, he had to deal with in Colorado. He brought them from 3-7, I believe, season to 9-4. And he did that within a year. And yeah, he did have the Heisman winner on his side, but the Heisman winner had to have somebody to throw the ball to him on offense. And Shedeur Sanders did that really well with one of the worst offensive lines in the nation. And I saw him hit. People thought he was a deep threat passer, but he really just did short pass after pass after pass. Reminded me a lot of Drew Brees and what Tom Brady could do. Speaking of which, people are comparing him to Tom Brady for being taken late. I'm not. Tom Brady was overlooked, and people didn't like him because of the player he was. People don't like Shedeur because of the person he is. So I want to stop hearing those comparisons right now. But here are my knocks on him. And these are things I think he will fix in the league. Number one, his ego. That's the most obvious one. He needs to quit being cocky. And I get it. That's how people raise their kids sometimes. And it's fine to think you're the best in the world for confidence, but you can't go around shouting that everywhere else. That's motivating other players to do well. I mean, when I think of something like this, I look back to players like Tim Duncan. He didn't brag or shout or trash talk because he didn't want to give players motivation. That's how you win. I mean, Tom Brady, you occasionally saw him get into the occasional tussle, but that's because there was no argument that he was the best quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see what Shedeur does, but he also needs to fix his pocket movement. So something I've noticed when studying film on him is the fact that he started to drift slowly backwards the longer he held the ball. And that's a bad sign, because then you're starting to throw off your back foot. and potential turnovers can happen in the NFL like that. The NFL game is a lot faster than the college game. So many people need to realize that. And so that's why in this next discussion, we're going to talk about Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter does not need to play two positions in the first 8 games of the season. He needs to get used to the speed of the NFL. Have him play one position for the first 8 games of the season and see if he can keep up. I don't think he's going to play 118 snaps a game like he did in Colorado. He needs to get used to the speed of the NFL, how incredibly athletic their players are. And if he can play 2 ways, great. That's an argument for MVP eventually. But if he cannot, this guy is slowly going to get weeded out of the league because he has an ego of wanting to be the best 2-way player. And now he's definitely inspired some kid out there to do that. So I have a feeling because of Travis Hunter and Deion Sanders, the original super 2-way player, we're going to see a lot more of this in the league. And this is going to become the athleticism of the league will greatly increase. I'll say that. But the game will kind of slow down. Next order of business, I called it. In our mock draft video I did with Max Tomlinson, I said that Jalen Milroe would go to the Seahawks. I did say first round 18th overall pick, but he ended up going to the Seahawks. And if you recall, I said that because Jalen Milroe would be great for the culture they want to build in Seattle. Seattle was known for Russell Wilson, who is a mobile quarterback who could scramble and get yards. And if they can do the same thing with Jalen Milroe, because Jalen Milroe can also act as a running back on offense. His athleticism is beyond any quarterback has shown this year in the draft. And as a rookie, he should very well be in the offensive rookie of the year conversation. And I say that because everybody's knock on him was his passing, short passing, his IQ. Those are all things that can be fixed. What I'm trying to say is the upside for Jalen Milroe is bigger than any possible downside he could have. So give Jalen Milroe a chance. He can make any team. He can instantly become the most explosive threat on the football field. And it'll be interesting to see what the Seahawks do with him. So another thing I want to talk about real quick is the Steelers draft. Will Howard. That'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And taking Derek Carr in the first round was a predictable move by the Steelers organization. All defense, all in on Mike Tomlin. I used to like Mike Tomlin because he's never had a losing season. But frankly, that's the only thing keeping him afloat. He hasn't even made the second round since 2017. So the Steelers organization, it might be a good idea. If he has a single losing season, they are going to fire him straight up. And they need to get their management fixed. They need to maybe move off of TJ Watt even. Because TJ Watt is a fantastic player. Obviously, he's tied the single season sack record, but he does not need to be on the Steelers. That's not a title contending team. Go to the Bills, go to the Ravens, go to any other team. Like, I'd say even come to Kansas City. That would be fun. I'm a Chiefs fan, but that would be fun. Next order of business, Cam Ward. Cam Ward is exactly what Shedeur Sanders. Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders' talent is very much the same. Cam Ward could possibly have a Jaden Daniels-like season. But unlike Shedeur, and this is why he was taken first overall, he started from the bottom, not at the top. And that's something that I really applaud. Going from a JUCO level college to the NFL number 1 overall pick. That's the story the NFL needs. A kid who no one believed in. And when he was drafted at the top, he said, to all y'all at the bottom, I'm happy you made it because I know how it feels to be at the bottom. That says a lot about who he is as a person. The Titans made a fantastic choice drafting him first overall. So next, and probably the final one, this is something that I want to talk about as a Chiefs fan, is the Chiefs draft. Not Tyler Booker. Josh Simmons would have been a top 15 pick if he hadn't gotten his knee injury. And I think you're going to see the Chiefs perform very well the next 2 years with him. If he gets healed this season, that's great. But he has the ability to learn from Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. That'll be awesome to watch. And then they also went and got Noah Williams, who I think was a good pick defensively. So once again, I think the Chiefs had a great draft. We'll see how they do next year. I have a feeling it's going to be a rough start to next year. So we'll see what happens with them. The Eagles, another great draft. Jihad Campbell, that is a good linebacker to have. Very aggressive from Alabama. So it'll be interesting to see. Something else that'll be interesting to see is the Wolves and the Warriors. So shifting back to the NBA real quick. The Warriors are in a situation where it's not, can you win the series right now? It's you need to force a game 6. When you get Steph Curry back on the floor, the Wolves have barely won over the Warriors, and the Warriors haven't even had their best player. So once they get Curry back, that's an immediate 3-point threat, and that's going to open up a lot of space for Butler and Hield, who have been performing very well recently. So once the Warriors can force Game 6, I think they could win the series, if I'm being honest. Jimmy Butler's 0 points in the final 8 minutes of last game was really what cost them. I'm not throwing any shade toward Anthony Edwards. I'm impressed that the Wolves have made this round and have 2 wins against the Warriors and were able to gentlemen sweep the Lakers, who I had gentlemen sweeping them. So impressed by the Wolves, impressed by Anthony Edwards. Him and Victor Wembanyama are going to be the future faces of the league. And with that being said, this is Charlie from the Cheap Seats signing off.